Hello students, welcome to poem 5 of Beehive, which is the legend of Northland. It's written by Phoebe Cary. Now let's talk about the poet Phoebe Cary. She was an American poet and the younger sister of poet Alice Cary. The sisters co-published poems in 1849 and then each went on to publish volumes of their own. After their deaths in 1871, joint anthologies of the sisters' unpublished poems were also compiled. Now let me talk about Phoebe Cary. She was born on 4th September 1824 in Ohio, United States, and she died on 31st July 1871, Newport, Rhode Island, again US. On the screen, you can see the rare and beautiful pictures of both Cary sisters. Now here I have some more exclusive pictures and information about both the Cary sisters. You can see the graves of both of them. The first one is the grave of Phoebe Cary, 4th September 1824 to 31st July 1871. She was a younger sister, and the second grave you see is that of the elder sister Alice Cary, born on April 26, 1820 and died on February 12, 1871. Both of these graves are there in Greenwood Cemetery, Brooklyn, New York. Now let me talk about the poem, The Legend of Northland. Now this particular poem is a ballad. Ballads are usually narrative, which means they tell a story. Now, ballads began as folk songs and continue to be used today in modern music. Basically, a ballad is a song narrating a story in short stanzas. Ballads are a part of folk culture or popular culture and are passed on orally from one generation to the next. So, The Legend of the Northland is a beautiful ballad. The poem narrates the legend of an old lady who angered Saint Peter because of her greed. Now here are the word meanings and important terms from this particular poem, The Legend of Northland. Now Northland is an imaginary place in Antarctic region. Basically it represents a country with extreme cold climate. Legend, it's an old traditional story which is passed from one generation to another. Harness, it's a strap which is fastened or connected or joined to a cart or a plow. Sledges. Now sledges is a cart slipping on the snow. Swift means fast runner. Tale, it means story. Preaching means to give God-like messages. Hearth is basically a furnace or an oven. Faint, feeling weak and dizzy. Fasting, it means not eating anything. Kneaded means mixed flour with water. Provoke means to poke or to stimulate someone for a reaction. Scanty means very little. Boring, to make hole. Woodpecker, it's a bird that makes holes on trees to get food. Scarlet. Scarlet is basically a shade of dark red color. Country boy means a village boy. Wood means forest here. Saint Peter is an apostle of Christ, means a disciple or a follower. So here were the important terms from this poem. Now here are stanzas 1 and 2 from this poem. Stanza 1. Away, away in the Northland, where the hours of the day are few, and the nights are so long in winter that they cannot sleep them through. It means the poem takes us to a Northland which is somewhere near North Pole, and the days here are so extremely short and the nights are so long, and because of this reason people cannot sleep all the time. Now stanza 2. Where they harness the swift reindeer to the sledges when it snows, and the children look like bear cubs in the funny furry clothes. It means people here use reindeer and they fasten them up to the sledges when it snows. You can see the picture how Reindeers are connected to a sledge, and it can be used not only for traveling but for transporting things from one place to another as well on snow, as walking on snow is very difficult but sliding is easy. And then the poet says the young children, they look very funny and they look like bear cubs in their furry clothes. Yeah, that's because the kind of clothes the small children wear. I have some pictures of children wearing such clothes. On the screen top, you can see there are three kids and they actually look like beautiful bear cubs. Now here are stanza 3 and 4 for you. They tell them a curious story, I don't believe it is true, and yet you may learn a lesson if I tell the tale to you. So the poet says that the people here in Northland, they tell a strange story. And the poet doesn't believe in it, but he still says that if he tells us the same story, we will surely learn a lesson out of it. Stanza 4. Once, when the good Saint Peter lived in the world below and walked about it preaching just as he did, you know. So once upon a time there lived a saint. His name was Saint Peter, and he traveled everywhere to spread messages of God by teaching them to all the people he met on his journey. And you can see a picture, the person in orange dress in the center is basically Saint Peter represented here, and he's talking and spreading the message of God with the people he met on his way. Now stanza 5 says, he came to the door of a cottage in travelling round the earth, where a little woman was making cakes and baking them on the hearth. So like this, he reached a lonely cottage in one place, and inside the cottage a little woman was baking cakes in the furnace. Now here I have some pictures on the screen where you can see a lonely cottage and a woman who's baking cakes, and the last picture on the screen shows a furnace or a natural oven used by people in ancient times. Now stanza 6. And being faint with fasting, for the day was almost done, he asked her from a store of cakes to give him a single one. So it basically means Saint Peter was fasting since morning and he was feeling very weak and dizzy and hungry too. The day was almost over, so he requested the woman to give just one piece of cake to him. Now in stanza 7, the poet says, so she made a very little cake, but it is baking lay. She looked at it and thought it seemed too large to give away. So hearing this, the woman bakes another cake, but could not share that with the saint, and it looked too big to her. Therefore, she needed another and still a smaller one, but it looked, when she turned it over, as large as the first had done. So the lady baked another cake and took very little dough this time, but after it was baked, this cake also looked big to her. Now the poet says, then she took a tiny scrap of dough and rolled it flat and baked it thin as a wafer, but she couldn't part with that. This means she again took a very small piece of dough this time and she baked a very thin cake. But due to her greedy nature, she could not even share or part that cake with the saint. Stanza 10. For she said, my cakes that seems too small when I eat them myself, and yet too large to give away, so she put them on the shelf. So she tells the Saint Peter that these cakes, they look very small to her when she tries to eat them, but they look very big when they are given to someone. So instead of giving that cake to Saint Peter, she keeps that cake also in the shelf. That means in the cupboard where she had kept the other cakes. Stanza 11. Then good Saint Peter grew angry, for he was hungry and faint, and surely such a woman was enough to provoke a saint. It means this was sufficient to provoke a saint, as he was extremely hungry and he was about to faint due to the weakness, as he had not eaten anything. Stanza 12. And he said, you are far too selfish to dwell in human form, to have both food and shelter and fire to keep you warm. So the saint tells the woman that she was too greedy and she had no human qualities. Hence, he cursed that she must not possess this human form, home, or even fire, to keep herself safe and warm. She must also roam here and there for food and shelter. Stanza 13. Now you shall build as the birds do, and shall get your scanty food by boring and boring and boring all day in the hard dry wood. It means that now the woman shall also be living like the birds and roam everywhere to get scanty food by making holes in the trees. She had to work very hard all day long, but she will still get very less food. Now in stanza 14, the poet says, Then up she went through the chimney, never speaking a word, and out of the top flew a woodpecker, yet she was changed to a bird. It means the lady immediately turned into a bird due to the curse of the Saint Peter, and she flew through the chimney. She could not speak anything. She was totally transformed to a bird. Now stanza 15, it says, She had a scarlet cap on her head, and that was left the same, but all the rest of her clothes were burned black as a coal in the flame. Now, the scarlet cap that she wore as a human, it left a red color on her head. The rest of all her clothes, which got burnt while passing through the chimney, gave her body a coal black color. Stanza 16, And every country schoolboy has seen her in the wood, where she lives in the trees till this very day, boring and boring for food. It means every school boy or village schoolboy has seen her so many times in the forest, where she still lives till this present day on earth. She is still seen boring the trees throughout the day to get some food. So this is where the poem ends, and I hope you have understood each and every stanza and understood the meanings that were hidden in this particular poem. So the moral that we get from this poem is we should not be greedy and we should show human qualities to everyone. So I would like to thank you once again for watching this video. Please subscribe to our channel and please go through all the educational and informational videos. We have downloaded it for you. Thank you, take care and stay safe.